entrepreneurs, Joe DiChiara, CPA/entrepreneur, coming to you with the third episode of How to Win Big at Business. And I am the owner, CEO of Bedrock 360 Business Solutions, Bedrock Business Builders Corp. And what we do at Bedrock is we help guide the smallest of small business owners from startups, basically all solopreneurs trying to navigate the complicated maze of business compliance, marketing. When somebody goes into business, they don't know what they don't know. And that's what usually gets people in trouble. They don't know about marketing, myself included. I had no idea how to market my business. So we cover the gamut. We're sort of like a one-stop shop. We'll do everything from helping clients get their website off the ground, their social media, and obviously, I'm always helping people minimize their taxes while reducing their exposure, giving them all the compliance that they need, and helping them not only stay in business, but grow their business and be able to scale it. So that's my story. I'm sticking with that. And today, in the third segment of How to Win Big at Business, I'm going to cover something that is usually a mystery to people. I remember I asked my coach, I said, how do you stay motivated? How do you keep that going day after day? And he said something that really stuck with me, and it makes sense. He said, habits and discipline eat motivation for breakfast. And the truth is, you're not always going to be motivated. There's going to be days where you wake up and you're like, why did I ever start this business? I wish I can just have a job again. I mean, I've been there plenty of times. Having a business, especially if you have a family, if you have other responsibilities, it's tough. Business is not simple. It's not easy. It can be a real drag on somebody. And, we're all human. We're all human. We hit obstacles. Clients don't pay us. We get hit with a big unexpected bill. We get audited. All these things can happen. You're in the landscaping business and you've had torrential downpours for a month, so you can't do your business. How do we survive this? How do we, keep that tenacity and the, optimism that we need to keep going? Well, yeah, habits and discipline are key. I've learned that. I've incorporated my own positive habits. I've shared this in this podcast. I start every day, spend about 60 to 90 minutes just getting ready for my day in the morning. It includes, reading, stretching. I have this really cool massage gun, and I start at the bottom of my feet. I do my hands, my neck, and that's to get blood circulation going. I would like to say that I go to the gym every day, but quite often I'll go to the gym in the middle of the day. I'll break up my day. I'll take a nap because I find that rejuvenates me. It's almost like I have two mornings, and that's what I do. But I'd like to take it a step further and talk about principle, because if you're a solopreneur or any business owner, everything starts and ends with you. Elon Musk runs six major businesses, and at the end of the day, he's the CEO, and it's all gonna end. It starts and ends with him, his personality, his principles, and that's what I'd like to talk about. So we're gonna do a deep dive into two of my favorite individuals that I've learned a lot from. One of them lived, centuries ago, one of the most successful, probably one of the most successful people that ever lived, but one of the greatest entrepreneurs that ever lived, without a doubt. He was actually responsible for creating the franchise system. He created the first franchise system with his printing company. Now, this was back in the late 1700s. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, it's good old Benjamin Franklin. And what I learned is I'm going to share my screen here. If you're just listening to the podcast, I'll explain what I'm showing. But Benjamin Franklin had what he called the Moral Perfection Project. And this is what it looks like. He had a virtue, 13 different virtues, okay? And here's what they are: temperance, eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. Silence, speak not but what may benefit others or yourself, avoiding trifling conversation. Order, let all your things have their places, let each part of your business have its time. Resolution, resolve to perform what you ought, perform without fail what you resolve. Frugality, make no expense but to do good to others or yourself, waste nothing. Industry, lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. Sincerity, use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly. Speak accordingly. Justice, wrong none. Okay. I'm not going to go into all of, even though I went into all of the details. Moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and last but not least, humility. I think that's 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Yes, 13. And then what he has is he has boxes. He has the week laid out. Okay. And what he would do, and he did this for a long time. I believe he did it for most of his life. And he started this when he was young. And he called it the Moral Perfection Project because his goal was to become perfect, even though he knew he'll never be perfect. You know, he was human, and humans fail. Okay, we fail. So what he would do is so temperance. If he got drunk on a Sunday, he didn't check that off. Okay. Silence. If he was silent that day, he would check it off. Basically, give himself a good mark. Going so for all 13 of them, he would, either check it off or not check it off. Sort of like a scorecard. And then he would keep one for the whole week. And his goal was to have all the boxes checked. Probably never once, I don't know, but I would assume that he never checked all the boxes. Uh, so that's Benjamin Franklin, one of the most successful people, in my opinion, that ever lived. Now let's go to Napoleon Hill. So Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, uh, probably still selling millions of books. Probably the one book that's helped more people become millionaires than any other publication. I don't know that for a fact, uh, but if you look it up, I would say I'd put money on it. So Napoleon Hill had 17 principles. And so let's go through them. Number one, definiteness of purpose. Number two, the mastermind aligned. Three, applied faith. Four, going the extra mile. Five, a pleasing personality. Six, personal initiative. Seven, positive mental attitude. Eight, enthusiasm. Nine, self-discipline. 10, accurate thinking. 11, controlled attention, focus. 12, teamwork. 13, adversity and defeat. So what he means there is it's not if you face adversity and defeat. It's when. 14, creative vision. 15, health. One of my ex-girlfriends told me, if you're not healthy, how can you take care of anyone else? True. 16, budgeting time and money. Benjamin Franklin called it frugality. And 17, habits. So you'll see there are some close commonalities between Benjamin Franklin's principles and Napoleon Hill's principles. Uh, and so I'm going to take you to my own principles. So I'm going to share this with you. So I have a system called How to Win a Business. Not coincidentally, this podcast is called How to Win Big at Business. Now, this is a system that I've been working on for probably about 15 years. Soon after I studied Napoleon Hill's books, The Law of Success, which was the book that he wrote before Think and Grow Rich. It was originally a correspondence course, and I read that. It's a lot more detailed than Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich was sort of like a commercialization of the Law of Success. So I recommend both. If you want the comprehensive version, Law of Success. If you want the quick read version, the simpler version, Read, Think, and Grow Rich. I've read both of them several times. So let's go through what I have. Now, I created this before I knew about Benjamin Franklin's Moral Perfection Project. And when I saw that, I said, oh my God, there are no coincidences. So, he had a system. The point is that number one, you have to have your own principles. Number two, I believe that you have to document them. You have to have some way to check yourself. And this has been my way. So I set up this chart exactly, well, not exactly, but similar to what Benjamin Franklin had. So what he had, if you're watching the video, you could see this. But if you don't, what he had is, let's go back. He had the virtue, and then he explains it, and then he had all the days. So what I have is, okay, so my first principle is start with why. So I have the principle and then I describe it, same as Benjamin Franklin. Uh, so these are in a particular order, uh, not so much that they're the order that you should go in, but these principles are what keep me grounded when things go wrong, when I don't know what I should do in a particular situation. This helps me. This helps guide. So let's go through mine. Number one, purpose. You have to have a purpose. And there's a YouTube video I recommend everybody. It's one of the top YouTube video, the most watched YouTube videos of all time, and that's saying something. It's called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And what he talks about is uh, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he uses some pretty powerful examples. He said, Apple computer, the Apple didn't run as fast as Microsoft Windows machines. It didn't have as many programs. It was a lot more expensive. So why do people buy Apple? Because of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, why was, he believed that computers should be cool, that you should be able to make beautiful things with computers. He took a calligraphy course in college, and he said, "Why can't I do letters in different fonts on the computer?" And that's why a lot of graphic people were uh, driven to Apple. The Wright brothers, he said. There was a gentleman, his name was Professor Langley, and you probably never heard of him. But Professor Langley was backed by the US government to create the flying machine. So he had all the money at his disposal. He had the top scientists, the top people available to him to create the flying machine. Okay. The Wright brothers owned a bicycle shop. So they didn't have unlimited funds. They didn't have talent, galore. They had friends and family. Okay. They didn't do it because they wanted to become rich and famous. They did it because they believed that they could. And they did it. And the funny thing is Professor Langley had all kinds of, news people, uh, journalists following him around. The Wright brothers had nobody. Nobody knew about the Wright brothers. And when they achieved flight, nobody could believe it because it was impossible. How could they have done that? And the newspapers refused to even publish it because they said nobody will believe it. And Professor Langley, what did he do? He didn't say, "Oh, this is great. Let's improve on this technology." No, what he did was he gave up because he wasn't the first. He wasn't doing it uh, just for the fact that uh, he thought he could do it. The Wright brothers weren't thinking. Maybe they were, but the most important thing was that they believed that they can do it. That was their why. And they didn't give up. They would crash all the time. All the money they invested would go. Well, Professor Langley was doing it because it would make him famous. And now somebody else beat him to the punch, so he just gave up. So those are just two examples that Simon Sinek uses, and I believe that tenacity. I believe that winners don't know how to spell quit. It's not if you're going to fail; it's when. It's Sylvester Stallone in one of the Rocky movies. It's not how hard you hit; it's how hard you can get hit and keep getting up. That's how winning is done, right? It's tenacity. Mastermind. I'm part of a mastermind group. I've run mastermind groups. It's having a circle of influence. That comes from Napoleon Hill. Focus, have a definite chief aim. That also comes from Napoleon Hill. Discipline, winning is a habit. Inventory, take stock of yourself. I've said this time and time again. Everything starts with you. Okay, you got to know who you are and why you do what you do. And most of us don't even know why we do what we do. So take stock of yourself. Service, my friend and mentor, Larry Broughton, one time he said something that changed my whole outlook on my business. He said, be of service, be of service. And what I did was I went home and I said, you know what? I'm just going to see how I could help my clients. I'm going to be of service. And instead of thinking of, how much can I charge them to do this? Oh, they need a loan. I'm going to put together financial statements and I'm going to charge them, $3,000. No, what I did was I went to each client and I looked at what do they really need and I tried to provide it. And that year my revenue went up by 60%. Now, that didn't mean that, each client that I did stuff for increased their payment to me. It doesn't work like that. But it had to do with my mindset, okay? And Napoleon Hill talks about attitude. Somebody said your attitude determines your altitude. I think it was Zig Ziglar. Leadership. So if you're a solopreneur, and again, it starts with you. If you can't lead yourself, how are you going to lead other people? Don't think that just because you're solo that you don't require leadership skills. You're going to be dealing with people. You're gonna at some point you might have to hire people. And if not, you still have to deal with your clients. You have to deal with your vendors. And that takes leadership. Now, believe it or not, not everyone is born a leader. It's a skill that you could acquire. It's a skill that you could acquire. And I recommend people look toward Abraham Lincoln and his method of leadership. There's a book called A Team of Rivals, and there's also a movie that was based on that. But you can actually learn how to be a leader. Structure. You have to have a solid foundation. That's why the name of my company is called Bedrock. Okay, you need a structure. Even so, I say make it scalable or make it into originally, I think I had that, I called it the franchise model, the McDonald's model. You want to have it so it's replicatable. Even if you never replicate it, you have to look at all of your processes and you have to have a clear operating procedure. So you need the structure. Your attitude, positive thinking is powerful. Norman Vincent Peale wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking, and I recommend that to everybody. Educate. I'm a teacher. I'm not only a teacher, but I'm the world's greatest student, always trying to learn. And if you ever want to learn something, try teaching it. So you want to become a great student and a great teacher. Rest. God rested on the seventh day. We all need rest. It's a proven fact that rest works. Okay, you got to get the right amount of sleep. You should take a day off to clear your mind. Uh, if you're aware of this, some of our best ideas come when we're relaxing. It's not a coincidence that you might have your best ideas while you're in the shower. Think about that. All you're thinking about is taking your shower for the most part. You have water pouring on you, or if you're taking a bath, there's something spiritual about that. Okay, but it gets your mind going. A lot of times, I mentioned that I take a nap during the day. A lot of times I'll wake up with, oh my God, I just had the world's greatest idea. And that's why, you should have a pen and a notepad by your bed. Also, those ideas that you have in the shower. I had a crazy idea once. I said, there should be a way to write down your ideas in the shower. And then a friend of mine came to me with this product that was actually a waterproof like notepad. So you could write your notes while you're in the shower. And last but not least, my 13th principle is faith, because without faith, we're done. We're done. Whatever your faith is, you can believe in the wind, you can believe in whatever. I choose to believe in a God of my understanding, and that helps often. It helps often. So that's my story. Episode 3 is over and out now. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Joe DiChiara, God bless. And if you have time, please follow me, give me a review, and it helps. It definitely helps. And God bless, and thank you for listening and for watching.